Oh, this is the story of my life. I settle for everything and then I complain. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your old pal Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And I am thrilled and delighted to have a Jewess on the program. She's waving. I need you to unmute your mic and unmic your mute so that we can hear you. Amanda Green. While you're doing that, let me tell you a little bit about Amanda Green, ladies and gentlemen. She is, of course, the daughter of Phyllis Newman, Adolph Green, but for herself, she is the current president of the Drama Desk, which helps playwrights and people like that. She is a Tony nominee for the Broadway musical Hands on a Hardbody. She also helped write Bring It On, which was a kind of a hit on Broadway about cheerleaders, which I always like, and the delightful Broadway show High Fidelity. She was also even brought in, we'll talk about this, to add material to a revival of Kiss Me Kate. Imagine being invited to improve upon Cole Porter and William Shakespeare. This is talent, ladies and gentlemen. Would you please welcome to the neighborhood with a great big shalom, Amanda Green. Shalom, Amanda, and please unmute so that we can hear you. Oh, there you go. How you doing?
I'm very happy to be here. It's the Dramatist Guild, not the Drama Desk.
Oh, I'm
the president of.
I get confused.
All composers, writers, and librettists, and protect their copyrights.
This is tremendously important. What is it? Is it 1927 is the year now with copyright that anything before then is okay, and anything after 1927 you need permission, or it doesn't?
I don't know the exact year, but sounds good.
Yeah, sounds pretty good to me. Now, first of all, how has your Yontif been? How, because we're in the middle of Sukkot and getting into Shmini Atzeret and Shavuos. Not Shavuos, what the hell am I talking about? Simchas Torah. What, how's that been for you?
Nice.
Yeah?
Good.
Well, you had, I assume you had a very secular upbringing, but does Judaism mean anything to you?
Absolutely. I grew up with, I went to temple on all the high holies. I have aunts and uncles and cousins who were very observant. So we went to temple with them for all the biggies.
Does the Jewish,
yeah.
But does the Jewish mindset, the culturalness of it, come out in your work, in your writing sometimes? Do you realize only a Jew could have written this?
Certainly it is. Yes, I think it's just in the water. Absolutely.
And did you have to tamp that down when you were in Nashville?
Yes, the words shalom and chutzpah and schmuck and things like that don't go over too big with angels and trucks and Jesus.
This is true.
Yeah.
I got schmaltz in the back of my truck, and they wouldn't play. They couldn't. Right. Anywho, so let's roll it back a little bit. When did you, when you were a little girl growing up, and people would come to the house, really, really famous people in the theater world, the Cy Colemans and the Sondheims and the people like that. Did it make any kind of impression on you, or were you a kid like, oh, grown-ups, they're boring, I just want to go and play with my toys?
Oh, no. Well, first of all, my dog is barking, and that's not a euphemism, so I'm going to close the door. Hold on.
Please do. Fastest interview ever, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
No, yes, no, they absolutely made. I was enthralled with all of them. Yes, so that was the some of the highlights of my childhood were, getting to hang out with them and listen to them play. It was, it.
Do you remember hearing a song that they played at the piano? Oh, we just wrote this, and then 3 years later, it's on a cast album, and then it has become a standard now.
Absolutely. Yes. I remember my father and Betty and Cy Coleman playing the song Never Met a Man I Didn't Like. And Steve Sondheim playing the entire score of Sweeney Todd when I was
before.
Yeah. I got to listen to him do it. It was one of the great moments of my life. So yes.
Can you, Sondheim is Sondheim. What is it? How do you quantify why he's as great as your dad was, as great as Phyllis Newman was, as great as Becky Conn? What makes him just sort of the king of all everything?
It's his superlativeness in every department, lyrically, musically, his insight into, humanity, his wordplay, his humor, all of it. He's got it all going on all cylinders. So I think the fact that he has all those gifts working at the same time, that's my take.
Okay. Now, your dad was no slouch, but I think in terms of, did he want to teach you? Were you, knowing what your dad did for a living and did so well, when you started to want to write songs and want to, did you share with your parents, or were you like, I can't because they're them. They're not just parents. They're not going to say, oh, everything you do is wonderful. They're like, no, they write for Broadway. You want to write for Broadway too? Here's the rules. What was that like?
They were, I was very happy to share with them, and they were very supportive, although he was very proud of almost everything I did. Although, when I wrote, I played him a melody and I said, it's not much. And he's like, no, it's not.
He's Jewish. Oh boy.
I mean, we always shared jokes and things. So I was thrilled to, and he loved hearing me, I'd recite him lyrics I was writing, and he was, so it was not intimidating. I should have been more intimidated, but luckily, the stupidity of youth keeps you from from seeing how daunting it could be to do what they do.
No, I am kind of, when you had mentioned, and this is your word, not mine, but your word, that you had said your dad was a big eccentric. What?
Yes.
Give us some eccentricities of Adolph Green, please.
Well, he was eccentric in every department. He had his own. He would make up words. When he swore, which he did often. Sometimes, he'd be like,
you can use, by the way, the language.
Ukulele juice, that was one of his things. You're like,
what?
Ukulele juice, that was one of his things. He would hum, he could sing symphonies and play every part, blunk up, blunk up, blunk up, blunk, digga, 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 so he just was, there was a world going on inside his head that was going on inside no one else's, and outside his head, because he was loud.
Oh, well, is that because he was Jewish and deaf, like I'm half deaf, or he was just loud? That was his thing.
He was just loud.
What was he most proud of in his career? In other words, if he were to point to a song or something that he worked on, be it Singing in the Rain or one of his Broadway, what do you know what he felt most proud of about his work?
Singing in the Rain. I think that was what he felt most proud of.
Is that your favorite piece by either your mom or your dad, or not? What do you feel was your parents' greatest contribution, maybe separately, to theater or music or both?
I think Singing in the Rain, certainly. On the Town, too, for my dad. My mom, I think that her chutzpah, I mean, she was the first female guest host on Johnny Carson. So, so the fact that she was sort of out there and could hold her own and trade barbs back and forth with Johnny. And she was very funny. And so I truly admired that about her.
And she just passed, what was it, about 2 years ago at this point, or so. So, what was it? Heavy question, but I'm kind of curious. You lost your dad a few years back, but her more recently. I'm sorry?
Many years back, 2002. Yeah.
What is it like losing the second parent? Is it somehow worse, or is it easier, or... I know, it's terrible, because the host of this...
What's the good answer? Oh, it's so much easier. Woo, let me tell you, this second time was a charm. I tell you, that one...
I know. No, there's some reason. The host of this program lost a parent a couple of months ago.
I'm sorry.
God willing, the other parent will stick around for a while, but if they don't, so easier, harder, better, worse, more fun. What?
It was infinitely more fun. No, it is very profound when you lose both parents, because then all of a sudden, when my father died, my mom sort of took the mantle of everything, and then when she passed away, now I've taken the mantle of everything. You know what I mean? Like their works, their life, their belongings, his legacy, her legacy is suddenly, on my shoulders. So it's very profound.
And you feel finally, because at some point I will feel like a grown up. I still don't. Was there a point when you felt like, was it a Broadway opening night and you're like, I've arrived, or you still feel like 10 years old?
It depends what day or situation you catch me in. If I'm filling out forms for the real estate tax, I feel very much like a grown up. But if I'm, trying a lyric out on a creative team, then I feel 10 years old. So, that's the way it goes.
Now, we're talking with Amanda Green. I want to know more a bit about the process of creating shows. The old way, the way that your parents grew up with, was you have an idea for a show, you work on it, you take it out of town for like 3 weeks in New Haven, you bring it in, and boom. For the past like 30 years, it's been like you work on it, you workshop, you're reading, your backers, you this, you take it out of town, you have more workshops. It takes 8 years to get a goddamn show on the things. Which do you think is better?
I mean, it's certainly faster the old way. I of course that would be preferable, but I also know firsthand how hard it is to write a musical. I don't begrudge a workshop that I've had, but I certainly don't like how much time it takes. It's just ridiculous. And also, I mean, because they're so expensive, because everybody's doing so many other things to keep a career going and stay, make money, that it's really hard to pull things off these days, much harder, and takes much more time. So faster is always much more fun and better, obviously.
But is it like producers where you always have to have 5 different projects going on at once and be ready to pull the trigger on one and then put the others aside? You can't just kind of monomaniacally work on one thing?
Yeah, you cannot. You cannot, and I think you should not maniacally work on it.
Well, I'm a maniac. Yeah.
That's just the way, you want it, an heir and a spare, so to speak. If all your babies are in that basket, it could be, and it doesn't work out, then you're, I think that's really a tough situation to be in.
Well, let me ask you, let's delve into a little bit into specifics into one of your first big shows, High Fidelity,
yes,
which made it to Broadway. Was it so, and it got some good reviews, some not so good reviews. It did not last long on Broadway. But here's the question for you. Like, when you were reading it and backing it and workshopping it, did it feel just right? And then when it came to Broadway, this person was telling you, this has to change. And suddenly this in the second act is or isn't work. And then did you pull it out of shape? Or was it the same show and people just didn't come?
It went through many iterations. And if you ask anybody, I think almost any Broadway show, it changed drastically. And I just don't think it was the right, I'm very proud of the show, very proud of the writing. I love the cast. So I don't look back and go, oh, how could I have written that? Because I got no quarrel with what I wrote and what we wrote together. So, some good decisions were made, some bad decisions were made. So many decisions are always made bringing a show to Broadway. And I just don't think, I'm not here to like Monday morning quarterback or put the blame on other people. It just didn't work out, but it will have its day. It's a really good show and it's a great sport.
That's one thing that people don't realize. Oh, I lasted, however many weeks on Broadway. But then people start doing the shows elsewhere. And they work, and they do them in colleges, and they do them in the regionals, and they do them in the straw hats. Well, it's no straw hats anymore, but you know what I'm saying. But they get done, and the songs get done in cabarets and things like that. Same, I'm sure, with Hands on a Hardbody, which was, by the way, since I am a rabbi, let me explain to people that Hands on a Hardbody is not the name of a pornographic film, and I've seen all the pornographic films, so I can tell you it's not. No, it has to do with, well, why don't you tell people, in case someone wants to revive this show, what it's about?
It's Hands on a Hardbody is based on a documentary of the same name, which was documented a contest where people would put their hands on the Hardbody pickup truck for the chance to win it on it's kind of like they shoot horses, don't they? But with laughs and music.
Well, that Jane Fonda, she's hilarious, but yes.
Yes, so it was based on a documentary, and I wrote it with Trey Anastasio, who's the lead singer of Fish, and Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Doug Wright, who's a dear friend. And I loved working on it.
And again, that one got some very nice reviews, but did that belong in a Broadway situation for today's Broadway? Could that have done better at like Playwrights Horizons or I don't know, the West Side?
I don't Monday morning quarterback because does Come From Away belong on Broadway? It's just people in chairs singing, so I just don't, it just didn't work out. It just wasn't the right time, the right situation, the right production. But I do think, and also Broadway, ticket prices are so high that that is a mismatch too of like a show about people who can't afford to, buy groceries next week and you're paying,
Please.
$200 a ticket to see them. There is a mismatch there. So yes, in that regard, yes, you might say it doesn't belong on Broadway. But again, if I could tell you what the answer was, I'd be
Well, at any given time, I have $1.48 in my bank account, so I can't even go to see Perfect Crime, let alone something on Broadway. And Perfect Crime gives its tickets away at this point, and I can't get in. So that because there's probably a surcharge. But okay, is there? I mean, it's sort of like, and your parents, they both had hits and flops and things like. There is no magic formula, and something can be working like that, and you can be sitting there on opening night of a show, and the audience is really having a great time and responding and loving it, and it's still something, the critics have at it, and then other people have at it. There's no, even after 150 years of Broadway, there's no, as we say, magic formula, if you will.
That's right.
But if there is one, they try to impart that to you, I assume, when you were part of the Lehman Engel, I call it the class act class, because they did that wonderful Broadway musical, A Class Act, about it's what do they call the Lehman Engel BMI workshop? That I couldn't think of that. So you went to that. What did they teach you there that you did not know intuitively as a songwriter already?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I'm really awfully glad I went. First of all, because I met all of my collaborators, not all of them, but many of them. Tom Kitt, he and I met there. Curtis Moore, who I'm working on a musical now, our fourth one.
Stop! Sorry, stop right there. Yeah. Stop 1 moment, please. Can you talk? Is it a secret, or what have you been working on with this Curtis Moore? What are you doing?
I'll tell you. Yes, we're working on a musical called Female Troubles, which is not the John Waters.
Not the John Waters thing. No.
Female Troubles, which is an original concept we came up with. It's we describe it as Jane Austen meets Bridesmaids, but about women's reproductive freedoms. So it's kind of a Jane Austen-y story with contemporary music about a young woman who is engaged but not married, and her fiance is off on a ship, and she finds out she's pregnant, and she's got to do something about it.
Oh, and again, what era is it? The Austen era,
early 1800s.
So when were you just sitting around? We'll get back to the BMI thing, but were you sitting on the couch just saying, spitballing, I want to write a musical? What do I want to write about? I don't know. I've been reading a Jane Austen. How did that suddenly
Curtis, I love Curtis Moore. He's written for actually he writes a lot of original songs now for Mrs. Maisel and a Jewish television.
Yes, damn it, yes.
Yes, and I love working with him, and we were sitting around going, what can we work on together? And I said, well, I can tell you the worst idea I've ever had for a musical, and that's Abortion, the musical comedy, because I care a lot about women's rights. And he was like, yeah, that's a rough one, but sometimes it works better to tackle a subject in a different time period. So then we were like, well, Jane Austen is fun. And then that got us going, on how to do it. Because I also want to do it with humor, and mostly with humor, and then get your points in a sneaky, funny way.
It's tough because the only thing that rhymes with coat hanger is banger. And they wouldn't have said that back in the day.
Well, that's why you're not writing the music.
True. So how long ago was it that you said, let's just take this quote unquote terrible idea and spin it into where are you in the process? How long ago did it start, and what has happened since?
Oh, okay. That was, I think, 3 years ago. We got collaborators. We found these two women who are fantastic, named Jen Crittenden and Gabby Allen, who write for Veep. And they have their own show now on Fox, Housebroken. They've written for a million TV shows and done musicals. And they are hilarious and smart. And they seem like they are the perfect we make a very good team. And
Well, how did you find them?
I found them through, I'll name drop Frank Rich, because I know Frank Rich, and I ran into him and I was like, okay, Frank Rich, you're really smart. Give me, who are some really fantastic, smart women writers? And he was like, you got to meet Jen and Gabby, because they were writing on Veep with him. So that's how I found them. And then we started working on it. And then I was working with Scott Ellis on Kiss Me Kate. And I loved working with Scott Ellis. So I was like, Scott, here's this little idea we have and a little bit of a script. And I went to the second stage, and they gave us a week reading for the act one. So we wrote act one, and that, so it's, we were supposed to be at Williamstown last summer, but COVID. So now we're doing a reading in November in New York City. And so, that's how it.
So that you have both acts. The full script is, at least a full draft of both acts is ready. Can we say what the name is? The name of the show, or not yet?
Female Troubles.
I'm sorry, I forgot. Menopause is making me forget everything. Female Troubles is the name
and
of.
If you come to my cabaret act at Birdland, you will hear some songs from Female Troubles.
We should remind people. I didn't say it yet. That it's October 4th, Monday night at Birdland, and it's called Amanda Green and Friends Vaxxed as. Well, exactly, Vaxxed AF, right?
Yes.
But you know what that stands for. Vaxxed as Fakakta. It's at Birdland, 315 West 44th Street. It starts at 7 o'clock in the evening. And yes, you must be fully vaccinated to get in. And I'm guessing circumcised, considering that, you are involved in this. I'm hoping.
It's an honor system.
Yes. I'll give you that one. That was a very funny. So getting back to the Layman Angle BMI thing. So yes, you met Tom Kitt and you met other. So what again? The question is, what besides meeting all these potential collaborators, what can you point to that?
There are rules about writing a musical that sometimes you could say you intrinsically know, but I was very happy to learn certain rules and certain tropes and things and about storytelling, about different kinds of songs, some stuff. I walked in there knowing how to write a funny song, but writing for character, I still made lots of rookie mistakes when I was writing.
Like what?
Let's see. Imperfect rhymes, a song choice that was sort of like, it would kind of go nowhere, and then I did things right. I mean, one thing I was very happy about was like, as you mentioned earlier, I'd gone to Nashville. I couldn't find my place in the, I was looking like, where do I belong? I'm a strange person. I'm too weird for Nashville. I thought
at a certain point you were too pop for Broadway. Now Broadway incorporates pop and rock and roll, but not so much when you were first,
Yeah. But anyway, so once I went to the BMI workshop, I was like, oh, I love doing this. I love this. And so I found the home of what I love to do. So that was really the most important thing. But I really did learn a lot of rules about what it takes to write a musical and the kinds of songs. I mean, of course, it's all formulaic and a lot of people know about it now, but the I Want song and the Charm song and the 11 o'clock number and the thing, but having those, that shorthand and those tools to be able to voice it are very important, I think.
Yeah, my problem anytime I try to write for anything is I start with, and it always turns into an I hate song. No matter what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn, I hate this. And then, 2 hours later.
It's always a very funny song.
It is, but you can't have a whole musical. I've tried. But anywho, we're talking with Amanda Green, who will be at Birdland on Monday night, October 4th, and we'll be having a reading of Female Troubles. I can't invite all of you to that because it is a private industry. Is it a backer thing or just a workshop thing or both?
A little bit of both. But also, we haven't talked about Mr. Saturday Night, which is...
Are you involved in the Billy Crystal thing?
I've written the lyrics for it, yes.
Oh, how did I miss all this? Wow. So they're gearing that maybe for Broadway in what, 2023?
We're going to Barrington Stage in October. We'll be doing some public performances of the show, trying it out there in October.
So what is it like? I know you're working with him. He's probably a friend at this point. What is it like working with Billy Crystal, for gosh sakes?
I've been able to teach him so much about comedy, and I think that's been the most gratifying part of this whole process for me. No, it's been really cool and interesting, and I I asked the brilliant Jason Robert Brown to come in and write with me. So writing with him has been incredible, and I'm in a room with a lot of funny Jews, and I am the Rosemary of the room. I'm the only one in the room. So
Let's do a Dick Van Dyke reference, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, yes, indeed.
yes. So, you got to shout a little louder. You got to, make yourself heard. You got to.
But I'm sure, especially in the post Me Too woke era, they listen to you a little more than they might have 25 years ago. Even though they would have respected you then, you get a little bit, well, maybe your dog does. Let's see the dog. Hold up the dog. Let's see this dog.
She's on her own schedule.
There she goes. All right. Well, what kind of dog is it, by the way?
She's just a little bit of a Jack Russell Terrier, mostly.
Terriers, yay.
Yeah, a little mix.
I'm scared of German Shepherds because of the German part, but any other dog I pretty much love. So, wait, what the hell was we? We're talking about Billy Crystal.
Saturday night, yes.
It's the Saturday night. So I don't even know what that has to do with anything. But can you tell a Billy Crystal nice, happy anecdote or something we don't know about him that we'd be either surprised at or be like, oh yeah, of course he would do that?
Well, I could tell you a nice fact about him, and he's writing the book with his two cohorts, Babalu, Mandel, and Lowell Gans. So the three of them are writing the book, and I think the three of them combined have about 178 years of marriage, which the sweet thing is that they're all married to their first wives. They've all been married for, over God knows how many, 35, 40 years, so it's a very sweet, very.
I mean, they've all stooped around a ton during that.
Sure, no, but so I think that's a very sweet fact.
Yeah. Are you, by the way, I don't know your person. Are you married, children? I know you have a daughter.
I am married. I've been married for about 23 years to a fantastic man. I am the mother of two stepdaughters who are fantastic. Stepkids.
Now, did either of your stepdaughters ever come to you and say, "Mommy, I want to go into the showbiz," and you said, "Oh, hell no"?
My stepkids they're now in their 20s, so they are grown, and they neither of them are interested in show business as a career. But they were weaned on Sweeney Todd. They drew,
That's a hell of a show.
They loved it. And my elder stepdaughter would draw these crayon drawings, and she knew so much about the show, more than I did, which I didn't think was possible. And she also had an imaginary friend for a while, and the two of them put on a production of Sweeney Todd. That was really something.
Wow. I mean, I thought I raised 8 of my children on James Joyce's The Dead, the musical, and I thought that was pretty out there, but oh my goodness. And you remember that was a James Lapine News. It was pretty good, actually. So we're talking with Amanda Green, ladies and gentlemen. Have a bit more time with her to talk about her life, her career. Is your husband an entertainment kind of person, or is he totally...
He's an orthopedic surgeon.
Oh, no wonder you can do what you do.
I've hit the Jewish trifecta, absolutely.
Yes. Jewish doctor, orthopedic. No, wait, is that foots? Is that what?
No, it's everything from the neck down. It's your back, your shoulder, your ankles, your knees, yeah.
So if I show you my prostate, do you think you could just
I'm glad you got a laugh.
Bring him to the screen. It'll save me tons of all the doctors are doing virtual visits. I figure I can just pull and then save us a lot of time here. Anywho, well, maybe not. What family mementos do you have that you've kept that are the most meaningful to you from the years that your mama and papa spent in the showbiz?
Wow. Well, I literally just in the past, I hate using the word literally, but in the past year and month or so, I emptied their apartment of all of its possessions, and they lived there for 60 years. So there were many, many mementos. One of the most prized ones has to be their piano. So I have their piano, and And then, I just love old playbills and photos of them, when they were very, very young are very dear to me. And yeah, some letters. So yeah, I have some.
And is there a part of a trove that she'll give to a university, or maybe to the Broadway flea market, or what?
Yes,
What do you?
I've already given some stuff. If you go to the Broadway flea market, you will find some items there, a bunch of them. And we had an auction, and yes, I'm putting together a collection to give to an institution.
Now, do you? I think it's going to be Sweeney Todd at this point, but do you have a favorite all-time Broadway musical or off-Broadway that isn't your own?
Oh gosh, so many. Yes, so many. I mean, yes, of course, Sweeney Todd, of course, and a lot of Sondheim. On the Town is one of my favorites. On the 20th Century is one of my favorites of my dad's.
Right. Yeah.
And gosh, I mean, Hamilton, gotta give it up for Hamilton. What a glorious show. And yeah, many more.
Well, speaking of Hamilton, we have to ask, Gaga, you worked with Lin Manuel Miranda on the cheerleader musical Bring It On. So, any happy, delightful, wonderful Lin Manuel Miranda stories that you can tell?
Oh, he's a happy, delightful person. So we had many happy, delightful stories and fun. He would occasionally call me green sauce, and he would, we'd work on things together. And if I came up with a good line, he'd be like, "You're very good at your job." So we had a lot of fun. We really did.
What happens? Can I ask you? This was before Hamilton. Was this even before?
It was after In the Heights.
It was after In the Heights. So, what happens when there's sort of an unequal level of two people working on a show? When it's sort of like a quote unquote a green writer, if you will, and then someone who's been like Sondheim being paired with early in his career, either a Richard Rodgers, well, it wasn't that early, but or with who was he writing with on with Bernstein or someone like. In other words, what happens when the dynamic is not equals as it would be in like a BMI thing where everybody's sort of on the same, but you got one person who's had this level of experience and success.
Well, I mean, he was more successful, but we both had, he and Tom and I think Tom had won a Pulitzer Prize by that point. So we'd all done Broadway shows and written Broadway shows and had them put on Broadway. So yes, he was more successful, but it wasn't that if you are all agreeing to write a show together, there was no like, well, you better listen to me because I know what I'm talking about. There's none of that.
But what happens, I'm not talking about on the whole, I'm saying like when you have a song and you're working on a lyric or music with a lyric, and now this person feels like, and you're like, yeah, how do you resolve that? Even if you are on the same level?
Oh, well, that's a very good, I mean, I think if you're collaborating with someone and they feel strongly about something, you should listen to them because there's more than one way to skin a cat. So, the most successful people in the world could be wrong. The least successful people in the world can be right, and vice versa, I've rarely come into a knockdown, drag out fight with another collaborator of like, no, this is the way it should go. No, that's the way it should go. Because usually one of you will go with the other person and see where it takes you. Because there's often not like one absolute right or wrong.
Now, let me also ask you, you've mentioned female troubles, as most women would, but we also talked about having all these different irons in the fire. You must be working on one or two other projects, which might be...
I can't talk about them yet, but I am working on a couple of other projects.
And you can't say what, it's always bad luck. You don't
Early days. It's early days.
Are they with people you met at BMI, or who are they with that you're am I working with? Or?
I don't think neither of them are with people I met at BMI.
Okay.
Other people.
You can't stum. All right.
It's a little early. Sorry.
Now, also one of the things I was going to link this with asking about your father's eccentricity, but speaking of eccentric people, besides me, also, you were brought in to work on additional material for when TV did Peter Pan Live. We'll get to Kiss Me Kate. Peter Pan Live.
Yes.
There's got to be some stories about Christopher Walken when he was playing Captain Hook. I mean, that was an interesting evening. Um, Tell me a Christopher Walken story.
Oh boy, oh boy. Let's see. How can I put this not nicely? No, I mean he's no, I always said this is a terrible joke, and it's not nice, but I'm going to say it anyway. He was wonderful sometimes, and he would do this. I wrote this new number for him with using existing Julie Stein music from that he wrote. It was a song called Ambition, and I turned it into Vengeance. And it was a really fun song, and he would do it, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so good. And then he'd do some rehearsals, and he was really flat, and I was like, oh, but on the day in front of the cameras, and so I like to say I thought he would be lightning in a bottle, but he turned out to just be the bottle. But I never saw him drink, so I'm not casting aspersions. Never saw him drink or do anything, but it just was like, I was like, what happened? What happened?
Well, I read a little bit. They say it was an acting choice. I mean, he was deliberately underplaying him because he probably figured television cameras right here. I don't know. I
don't know, but it was certainly less alive than it had been at other times.
So you saw at moments that when he brought it, he really could bring it.
When he brought it, I was like, oh, this is going to be so good.
So you did add material to Peter Pan, and you added, now we can bring in Kiss Me, Kate. Did you even balk for a moment and say, yeah, Cole Porter did this, and what was it, Bella Spiewak and whoever wrote the Kiss Me, Kate book and stuff, and yeah, William Shakespeare did sort of the original on this, but we have to gussy it up? Or did you be like, oh, assignment, and it's a big Broadway thing, let me do it?
At the latter, yes. And again, I love Scott Ellis. I mean, Kelly O'Hara, I just think is a genius, and Will Chase was the lead in High Fidelity, my first musical, and the chance to be the Broadway, the Roundabout. It was all it was daunting, but I was excited by the assignment.
And was it specifically because the original material 50s, 60s was, I would want to say proto-feminist, it wasn't feminist, but what were you brought in to really deal with? Was it just the fact of his abuse, quote unquote, of Kate, or what?
There were several things. I mean, the dialogue what was sexist. There was some dialogue in it that it just wouldn't fly. That doesn't fly these days. And there were a bunch of and the fight with him paddling her on the behind and teaching her a lesson. It was all unsavory. And what it did was just take away from the delight of the show, which is a truly delightful show. And what it really is about is two strong egos battling in a battle royale. And it's not about the subjugation of a woman, because they're both really strong, really egotistical. So that all of that other stuff was like, it was marring the enjoyment of a fantastic show. So that's what I sort of, and Kelly O'Hara was also very smart about, like, even in the doling out of Shakespeare, like Petruchio got all the lines and all she got to do was shriek and pull her hair. So we gave her more Shakespeare to say, so she could be a woman of wit as Kate is. And then the fight was choreographed fantastically so that it was a battle royale rather than a man putting a woman in her place and spanking her as she ought to be spanked to teach her to.
I see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So and taking some of the language out of his mouth that would make you go, ew, why would she want to be with him? And giving it doesn't mean that you have to be nice to her. It would just be like, make fun of her ego and not make fun of her fetida. And when he was leaving, he leaves and she's leaving. She leaves. And instead, in the old version, he would say, like, I thought there was a softening about you. I thought you had really understood how to be a woman. It was sort of like, ew. It was more like, I'm sorry. So like,
I know, I get the wanting to do that for modern audiences. At the same time, and like in Showboat years ago, when there was that discussion of taking, an Old Man River, about to take the N word and turn that into something else, or when they did, but at the same time, I there's a critic that I know who went absolutely apoplectic as to what they did with Porgy and Bess, where they gave Porgy and Bess to a black playwright and said, take this and rewrite this and rewrite it. It's like, no, it's Porgy and friggin' Bess. This is what the Gershwins did back then, and DuBose Hayward, and it was for its time, and you look at it with modern eyes, and the things that make you go, ooh, you think about, it's like, okay, ooh, but here it is.
A show is a living, breathing thing. It's not a museum. You can do that if you want to.
Tell that to Samuel Beckett.
If you want it to be a museum piece, you can do that. And certainly, and also we worked with the estates and they would say like, no, you've gone too far. No, we like that. So they should be they are the final arbiters of what you can and can't mess with. But it was also written by a woman too, Bella Spiewak, who I don't know her, but Dollars to Donuts, she would not want her show, a woman to be, in the 50s. It was completely, I wrote things in the 2000s I would never write today, and I would go back and revise my scripts and do that. So I think you have to, if you want people to enjoy the show and not be taken aback by things that stand in the way of what you're really going after, that's what I think it's fine to do. But I mean, that's my opinion. You don't have.
Well, but what's interesting is that you've gone into classics and worked on those. You've also adapted material from extant things. You took, High Fidelity was a book and a movie, and then I'm kind of curious, you've also, and this is pretty rare these days, like this female troubles thing you're working on now, that's an idea that you spitballed that isn't from some other source, that isn't another fucking Hollywood movie that they're turning into, you know what I'm saying. It's like, do you have a preference, or do you think that we've just gotten overloaded with, and Mrs. Doubtfire may be wonderful, but you know what I'm saying? Are there just too many of this?
I don't, too many, I don't know. I mean, personally, it's, there's challenges and great things about each thing. It's fun writing an original thing because you can just make shit up, and it's fun to be able to dream things and go, I always want to say this or write a song about that or have a character that does this, and you have the freedom to do that. So that's wonderful. I mean, musicals are more popular than they were 30 years ago, certainly, so there are so many people and so many musicals. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, speaking of music, for the last question for the delightful and absolutely talented and so much fun Amanda Green, you mentioned that there's a couple of songs from Female Troubles that you're going to be doing at Birdland on Monday night, October 4th, when people can go see you 7 o'clock, but bring your Vax card and your inhalation masks and whatever else you need. But what other songs, a couple of songs you're going to be doing from other shows of yours? Are you doing any of your parents' songs? What?
I am doing, as I said, a couple of songs from this, none of my parents' songs. I am doing a song that we cut from Mr. Saturday Night, because that's where do cut songs go? They go into your cabaret act. A couple of songs from High Fidelity, a song from Hands on a Hardbody, a couple of songs that I wrote, early songs with Curtis Moore from one of the first shows we wrote together. So real like hodgepodge of stuff. And with great singers, great,
don't you have special guests or something?
Yeah, Anne Harada, who was just
our friend, she's been on this program, yay!
Oh, good, and Avenue Q, and then Darius DeHaas, who's just a sublime singer. Dan Finnerty of the Dan Band, who's one of the funniest people I know. Leslie Margarita, who is heaven. She's on TV and she started Matilda, and she's just absolute heaven. And who am I forgetting? Natalie Douglas, who's won 12 Mac Awards. That's a lot of Mac Awards. She's fantastic. So a really great crew, So everybody can see this crew and you, Amanda Green. It's going to be happening. We'll remind people one more time. Birdland, 315 West 44th Street. It's just off 8th Avenue in Manhattan. Monday night, October 4th. Be on the lookout in several months, probably, from Mr. Saturday Night.
and probably several months after that for Female Troubles. And then be on the lookout for Title TBA, which has Amanda Green attached to it on some basic level. And of course, if you have money to throw at shows, contact her immediately.
Constantly.
My last question for you, Amanda. What is your Hebrew name?
Hi.
Oh, that's the hell of appropriate.
I have no idea what my Hebrew name
Really?
is.
Were you bat mitzvah? Did they do that for
I
you?
was not bat mitzvahed, no.
All right, there's still time. Call me. We'll do it in my yard. It's fine. It's
Okay.
simple thing. We have a back.
I know it's not Christina. How's that?
There you go. There
Okay.
you go. Amanda Green, much success, much
Thanks so
thanks, and shalom to you.
Shalom to you. Okay, bye.
Bye now. Amanda Green in the neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen. On this episode of the Dave's Gone By program, let's hear a little more of Amanda Green singing just the way you will hear her when she's at Birdland. You know, some people would love to be on Broadway. Some people would love to be in the movies. People would like to be in Hawaii. But ladies and gentlemen, as Amanda Green sings, this is Rabbi Sol Solomon. I'd rather be with you.